The summer heat in Pine Ridge, Nevada, was merciless that afternoon. The small town, nestled between desert highways and forgotten mountain ranges, was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and nothing exciting ever happened. Until that day, 7-year-old Tommy Sullivan sat on the curb outside Miller's gas station, his dirt-stained sneakers kicking at loose gravel. His sister, 12-year-old Emma, had gone inside to buy them both a soda with the $5 their mom had given them before dropping them off. She said she'd be back in an hour after her shift at the diner ended early. That was supposed to be their special afternoon, just the two of them. Tommy counted the cars passing by. 18 so far. Emma had been inside for what felt like forever. He stood up, brushed off his shorts, and walked toward the glass door. The bell jingled as he pushed it open. Mr. Miller stood behind the counter, sorting cigarette packs into rows. He looked up when Tommy entered. "Where's my sister?" Tommy asked, his voice small. "Your sister?" Mr. Miller's bushy eyebrows drew together. "I haven't seen any girl come in here, son." Tommy's heart began to race. "She came in, like 10 minutes ago. She was getting us Cokes." The old man shook his head slowly. "Kid, I've been standing right here the whole time. No one's come in except you." Panic seized Tommy's chest. He ran back outside, scanning the parking lot. Emma's pink backpack lay on the ground near the trash can, its contents spilled across the asphalt. Her phone, her wallet, her house keys. His breath came in short gasps. He screamed her name. Once, twice, 10 times. His voice cracked and tears streamed down his face as he ran up and down the street, checking behind buildings, looking into car windows, calling out for his sister until his throat burned. That's when he heard them. The rumble started as a distant thunder, growing louder with each passing second. Tommy turned toward the highway and saw them cresting the hill like a steel wave. Motorcycles, dozens of them. Their engines roared in unison, chrome glinting under the brutal sun. Black leather vests, bandanas, heavy boots, the Hells Angels. Tommy had seen them before, passing through town on their way to rallies in California or Arizona. His mom always told him to stay away from bikers. Dangerous men, she said. Criminals. But Tommy wasn't thinking about any of that. He was thinking about Emma, about how she promised to teach him to ride a bike without training wheels this summer, about how she always saved him the last piece of her candy bar, about how she sang off-key in the shower every morning and made him laugh even when he was mad. The lead motorcycle slowed as it approached the gas station. The rider was a mountain of a man, his arms covered in faded tattoos, his beard streaked with gray. He cut his engine and the others followed suit, creating a wall of silence that somehow felt louder than the noise. Tommy didn't hesitate. He ran straight toward them, tears blurring his vision, his small legs pumping as hard as they could. He crashed into the lead biker's leg and grabbed onto his vest, sobbing. "Please, please, you have to help me. My sister is gone. She disappeared. Someone took her." The big man looked down at the crying child clinging to him. His weathered face, hardened by decades of desert roads and hard living, softened for just a moment. He knelt down, bringing himself to Tommy's eye level. His name was Marcus Hammerstone, president of the Silver State chapter. 43 years on this earth, 25 of them wearing that patch on his back. "Slow down, kid. What happened?" Tommy's words tumbled out between sobs. "We were waiting for Mom. Emma went inside, but she never came out. Her stuff is over there. She wouldn't leave her stuff. Someone took her. Please, you have to help me find her." Hammer looked over at the scattered belongings, then back at the gas station. He stood up and turned to the men behind him. 190 Hells Angels, gathered for their annual Nevada run. They'd been riding for 6 hours straight, heading to a campground 50 miles north. They were tired, thirsty, ready to crack open cold beers and tell lies around a fire. But not anymore. Hammer raised his hand and the murmurs ceased. "We got a missing girl, 12 years old, pink backpack, disappeared from this location within the last 20 minutes. A man with scars running down his neck stepped forward. That's Jackson Ridge Road behind this station. Runs for 30 miles through canyon country. If someone grabbed her, they'd take that route. No cameras. No witnesses. Another voice called out. There's an abandoned mining camp 15 miles east. Squatters been using it. Hammer nodded. He pulled out his phone and dialed 911, giving them the situation in clipped, efficient sentences. Then he looked at Tommy. What's your name, son? Tommy. All right, Tommy. We're going to find your sister. I promise you that. Within 3 minutes, Hammer had organized the largest search operation Pine Ridge had ever seen. He divided the men into teams of 10, assigning each group a specific radius and direction. Some would sweep the town, checking every alley, every abandoned building, every shadowed corner. Others would take the canyon roads, the desert trails, the forgotten paths only locals knew existed. Tommy sat on the curb again, but this time he wasn't alone. A biker named Dale, whose own daughter was Emma's age, stayed with him. The man said nothing, just sat there like a silent guardian, while Tommy trembled and wiped his eyes with his sleeve. The local sheriff, a thin man named Garrett with a perpetual look of exhaustion, arrived 12 minutes after Hammer's call. He stepped out of his cruiser and immediately tensed when he saw the sea of motorcycles surrounding his town's only gas station. What's going on here? We got a call about a missing child. Not a damn rally. Hammer walked toward him, his boots heavy on the asphalt. That missing child is why we're here. Her brother came to us for help. So we're helping. Sheriff Garrett's jaw tightened. This is police business. You boys need to clear out and let us handle this. A bitter laugh erupted from one of the bikers. Handle it? Like you handled finding Sarah Chun last year? Took you 3 days. She was 5 miles from her house the whole time. The sheriff's face reddened, but Hammer held up his hand, silencing his men. We're not leaving. You can work with us or work around us, but these roads are public and we're searching them. For a moment it looked like Garrett might push back. But then he glanced at Tommy's tear-stained face and seemed to deflate. Fine. But if any of you interfere with my investigation, I'll have every badge in the state down here. Deal. The sheriff got back in his car and drove toward the station to review whatever useless security footage existed. Hammer knew it wouldn't show anything. The camera had been broken for 6 months. He'd noticed it on his way in. As the search teams dispersed, Tommy stood up suddenly. His face had gone pale. He looked at Dale with wide, terrified eyes. There was a man. Earlier. Before Emma went inside. Dale leaned forward. What man, Tommy? A white van. It was parked over there. She pointed at a spot near the dumpster. The man was just sitting in it, watching. He had a beard. Not like yours. Scraggly. And he wore sunglasses even though he was inside the van. Dale's expression hardened. He stood and called out to Hammer, who was studying a map with 3 other bikers. Hammer jogged over and Dale repeated what Tommy had said. Hammer's eyes went cold. He turned to a biker with a phone in his hand. Get me every traffic camera, every dash cam, every piece of footage from the last 2 hours on Highway 50 and Jackson Ridge Road. Now. Then he knelt beside Tommy again. You did good telling us that. Real good. We're getting closer. But inside, Hammer felt the clock ticking. Every minute that passed made Emma harder to find. 28 minutes into the search, a biker named Rusty came roaring back into the gas station parking lot, his tires screeching as he skidded to a stop. His face was flushed, his eyes wild with urgency. Hammer, we found something. Everyone converged. Rusty pulled out his phone and showed them a photo he'd taken 3 miles down Jackson Ridge Road. Fresh tire tracks. Deep ones. Leading off the main road onto a dirt path that wound into the canyon. And there's more. Rusty swiped to another image. A piece of fabric caught on a branch. Pink. Same color as that backpack. Tommy's breath caught in his throat. That's hers. That's Emma's shirt. She was wearing pink today. Hammer's jaw clenched. He looked at his men, then at the sheriff who had just emerged from the gas station with nothing useful to report. We have a trail. We're moving now. Sheriff Garrett stepped forward. Now hold on. We need to call in a tactical team, get proper backup. You can't just go charging in there. But Hammer was already on his motorcycle. Every second counts, Sheriff. You want to wait for backup that'll take an hour to arrive, you do that. We're going now. The engines roared to life like thunder awakening. 190 motorcycles formed a convoy that stretched down the highway, a river of chrome and leather flowing toward the canyon with singular purpose. Tommy rode on the back of Hammer's bike, his small arms wrapped tight around the man's waist, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might break through his ribs. The dirt path was narrow and treacherous, but these men had ridden worse. They navigated the twists and turns with practiced precision, dust clouds rising behind them like smoke signals announcing their arrival. Then they saw it. Tucked behind a cluster of Joshua trees and half hidden by the canyon wall sat a white van. Old, rusted, windows tinted dark. The same van Tommy had described. Hammer raised his fist and the convoy stopped. Silence fell over the desert. He dismounted and signaled for 5 men to follow him. The rest formed a perimeter, blocking any possible escape route. If you're watching this story and hoping Emma is found safe, take a moment right now and subscribe to this channel. What happens next will restore your faith in humanity. But this search is far from over. Hammer approached the van with careful steps, his hand hovering near his belt. 20 feet away. 15. 10. He could hear something now, a muffled sound. Crying. A child's voice calling for help. His blood turned to ice and fire simultaneously. He looked back at his men and gave a single nod. Then he ripped open the van's back door. The door flew open and sunlight flooded the dark interior. Emma was there, bound with duct tape, her eyes wide with terror, tears streaming down her face. But she was alive. She was breathing. She was fighting. The man beside her lunged forward with a knife, but Hammer was faster. He grabbed the man's wrist and twisted it with such force that the blade clattered to the metal floor. 2 other bikers rushed in, dragging the man out of the van and slamming him face-first into the dirt. Within seconds, he was surrounded by a circle of leather and fury. Hammer reached for Emma gently, carefully peeling the tape from her mouth. His massive, scarred hands moved with surprising tenderness as he cut the bindings from her wrists and ankles. You're safe now. I've got you. Your brother is right here. Tommy appeared at the van's entrance, his face a mixture of relief and anguish. He scrambled inside and threw his arms around his sister, both of them sobbing uncontrollably. Emma held him so tight it hurt, but neither of them cared. She buried her face in his shoulder and kept repeating the same words over and over. I knew you'd find me. I knew you wouldn't leave me. The man on the ground tried to struggle, tried to speak, but a boot pressed down on his back, silencing him. Hammer stood over him, his shadow casting darkness across the predator's face. You picked the wrong day, the wrong town, the wrong girl. Sheriff Garrett arrived minutes later with 2 deputies, their sirens wailing across the canyon. He stepped out of his vehicle and froze when he saw the scene before him. The captured man, the rescued girl, the wall of bikers standing like sentinels. For once, the sheriff had nothing to say. He simply walked forward, placed handcuffs on the man, and read him his rights in a voice that shook with barely controlled rage. Paramedics checked Emma thoroughly. Bruised wrists, dehydration, shock, but nothing worse. She'd only been taken 33 minutes ago. 33 minutes that could have turned into a lifetime of darkness if not for a little boy's desperate plea and the men who answered it. As the sheriff's car drove away with the kidnapper locked in the back seat, Emma stood between Hammer and Tommy, her hands holding theirs. She looked up at the massive biker who had saved her life. Why did you help us? You don't even know us. Hammer looked down at her, and for the first time since this ordeal began, he smiled. A real smile that softened the hard lines of his face. Because a long time ago, someone helped my little girl when she needed it most. I'm just passing it forward, kid. Emma nodded, understanding something deeper than words could express. Tommy squeezed her hand tighter, never wanting to let go again. Their mother arrived 17 minutes later, her diner uniform still dusted with flour, her face drained of all color. She'd gotten the call from Sheriff Garrett while refilling coffee for table 6. The phone had slipped from her hands and shattered on the tile floor. She didn't remember the drive to the gas station, Didn't remember passing 3 red lights or nearly sideswiping a pickup truck. All she remembered was seeing her children standing there, alive, together, surrounded by a wall of leather-clad angels. Emma broke free from the paramedic checking her blood pressure and ran. Her mother caught her mid-stride, dropping to her knees and pulling both children into her arms with a force born of primal relief. They stayed like that, the 3 of them tangled together, crying and laughing and gasping for air all at once. Linda Sullivan looked up through her tears at the men standing around them. At Hammer, at Dale, at Rusty and the dozens of others who had abandoned their journey to save a child they'd never met. "How do I thank you?" Her voice cracked. "How do I possibly thank you for bringing her back to me?" Hammer shook his head. "You don't. You just hold them tight and don't let go." But Linda stood anyway, walked to him, and did something that made every biker in that parking lot go quiet. She hugged him. This small-town waitress with worn shoes and tired eyes wrapped her arms around the president of the Hells Angels and held on like he was the only solid thing in a tilting world. "You gave me my daughter back. You gave my son his sister. That's everything. That's my whole world." One by one, she hugged the others too. Dale, whose eyes went glassy. Rusty, who coughed and looked away. Men who'd spent decades building walls around their hearts found those walls crumbling under the gratitude of a mother who had almost lost everything. The sheriff approached with paperwork, statements that needed signing, procedures that needed following. But before all that, he did something unexpected. He extended his hand to Hammer. "I was wrong about you, about all of you. What you did today saved that girl's life. No question about it." Hammer shook his hand firmly. "We just did what anyone should do." But they both knew that wasn't true. Most people would have kept riding. Most people would have called the police and moved on with their day. These men had stopped their lives completely and turned themselves into a search army because a crying boy had asked them to. As the sun began its descent toward the Nevada horizon, painting the desert in shades of orange and gold, the bikers prepared to leave. They'd lost hours of daylight. The campground was still 50 miles away, but not a single man complained. Tommy ran to Hammer one last time. He looked up at the giant who had become his hero in less than an hour. "Will I ever see you again?" Hammer ruffled the boy's hair. "Every time you look at your sister, kid. Every single time." 3 years later, Pine Ridge looked exactly the same. Same gas station. Same desert heat. Same forgotten highway cutting through canyon country. But everything had changed. Tommy was 10 now, taller, his voice beginning to crack in that awkward way that made Emma tease him mercilessly. Emma was 15, her pink backpack replaced by a leather jacket she'd saved up for months to buy. Not just any leather jacket. One with a small patch sewn on the back. An angel with wings spread wide. Their mother still worked at the diner, but now she owned it. A mysterious investment had appeared 2 years ago, enough to buy the place outright from the previous owner who was ready to retire. The cashier's check had no return address, just a note that said, "For the family that deserves a fresh start." Linda never confirmed it, but she knew exactly where that money came from. Every year on the anniversary of that day, the rumble returned. Not 190 bikes this time, just one. Hammer pulled into the gas station parking lot right at noon, cut his engine, and waited. Tommy and Emma were always there, waiting for him. This year, Tommy had something in his hands. A photograph. The 3 of them stood together in front of Miller's gas station, now renamed Sullivan's Stop and Shop. Emma in the middle, Tommy on one side, Hammer on the other. A family bound not by blood, but by a moment when humanity showed its brightest face. Hammer took the photo, studied it, and tucked it carefully into his vest pocket, right over his heart. "You staying out of trouble?" he asked Emma. She grinned. "Mostly. Started a program at school. Self-defense classes for kids. Teaching them what to watch for, how to stay safe, how to fight back if they need to." Hammer's eyes crinkled with pride. "That's good. Real good." Tommy shifted his weight, nervous about something. He pulled an envelope from his backpack and handed it to Hammer. "What's this?" Tommy swallowed hard. "I wrote about what happened. About what you did. My teacher submitted it to a national essay contest. It won." They want to publish it in a book about everyday heroes. Hammer opened the envelope and saw the letter. The recognition. The praise. He closed it slowly and handed it back. "I'm no hero, kid. Just a man who did what was right." Emma shook her head. "You saved my life. That makes you a hero to us." They talked for another hour about bikes and school and life and the roads that stretch out before us, full of possibility and danger in equal measure. When Hammer finally started his engine and prepared to leave, Emma called out one last time, "See you next year?" Hammer looked back at them, these two children who had changed something fundamental in him that day 3 years ago, and he smiled. "Every year. Promise." Then he rode off into the desert, the rumble of his engine fading into the distance, leaving behind a town that would never forget the day 190 angels descended from the highway and proved that family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up when you need them most.